All right, hey everyone, you ready for this? We're going deep on Maradona.
Oh, yes.
Specifically, his time at the 1990 World Cup in Italy.
This is going to be good.
We're talking first-hand accounts, controversies,
A real look at his character on and off the field.
all that and more, just for you.
The source material for this one is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the author actually saw Maradona play live.
Wow. Where?
Wembley Stadium, back in '87.
That must have been incredible.
It was, but also think about it, this was after the hand of God.
1386? Yeah.
To still admire him after that, it says a lot about Maradona.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the author even mentions Maradona's success in Italy.
Right, with Napoli.
Between '86 and '90, he won them everything. Serie A, UEFA Cup, you name it.
So he was basically a god in Italy.
Especially Naples, where he played for Napoli.
Which makes the 90 World Cup even more interesting.
Oh, for sure, because it was held in Italy.
Setting the stage for some serious drama.
No kidding.
Huh.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit.
Back to the start of the tournament. Argentina, the defending champions.
But not exactly in top form.
They had injuries, weren't playing well.
And then they lost their very first game.
To Cameroon, can you believe it?
Talk about a shock.
And then, to make things worse,
Maradona makes some comments,
about the people of Milan.
basically saying they were only cheering for Cameroon because of him.
He just loves stirring the pot.
Classic Maradona.
But it didn't stop there.
Oh,
Next up was Argentina versus Russia.
another controversial moment brewing.
Maradona and his quick reflexes strike again.
You're talking about the handball.
The one where he actually stops a goal with his hand.
Oh, I remember that.
This time the ref saw it, disallowed the goal.
Still, it really highlighted Maradona's win-at-all-cost attitude.
And the author, who had been a huge fan,
Starts seeing the cracks in his image.
that dark side of the beautiful game starting to show.
It really makes you think.
Can you separate the artist from the art?
Especially in a sport like football, where emotions run so high.
Now, despite all this, there was still magic to come from Maradona.
Oh, absolutely.
The next match, Argentina versus Brazil,
Intense rivalry.
nail-biting game.
And then Maradona just does what he does.
It's hard to even describe.
Gets the ball, weaves through Brazilian players like they're not even there.
And then, boom, this impossible pass to Caniggia.
Who scores, giving Argentina the
A
win.
moment of pure genius.
And it's bittersweet.
How so?
The author describes it as Maradona's last true moment of brilliance on the world stage.
Knowing what's coming next, it's almost like a farewell.
Like the final act of a play.
You know the ending is near, but you can't help but be captivated.
Exactly.
Moving on to the quarterfinals now, Argentina versus Yugoslavia.
Not the most thrilling match.
It ended in a draw,
Argentina's fate once again decided by penalties.
and luck was on their side,
Goicoechea, their backup goalie, became a hero,
saving penalty after penalty.
securing their spot in the semifinals.
And who's waiting for them there?
Only the host nation, Italy,
Talk about pressure.
especially for Maradona,
This game was in Naples, his city.
where he was a legend for Napoli.
It was a clash of loyalties.
The entire country watching Maradona caught in the middle.
And of course, he adds fuel to the fire
How so?
by making some inflammatory comments before the game.
About Neapolitans being treated like second-class citizens by the rest of Italy.
Was he trying to rally his Neapolitan fans? Or just provoke everyone else?
Probably a bit of both.
It worked. The atmosphere in that stadium was electric.
The match itself was another tense battle,
Caniggia, once again, comes through for Argentina.
scoring the equalizer after Italy took the lead.
But yet again, it goes to penalties.
This time, there's a twist.
And Maradona steps up to take a penalty,
Can you imagine the weight on his shoulders?
with a banner in the stands reading, "Maradona, Naples loves you, but Italy is our country."
And he scores.
It was a moment of pure defiance.
And wouldn't you know it, Argentina wins the shootout.
Thanks to another incredible save from Goicoechea, they were going to the final, against all odds.
Led by Maradona, even though he wasn't at his physical peak.
He willed his team to victory with grit, determination, and maybe a touch of luck.
But as we all know, the final against West Germany did not go their way.
It was a disappointing match, full of fouls and negative tactics.
Many consider it one of the worst World Cup finals ever.
And for Maradona, it was a heartbreaking end to his World Cup journey.
The image of him in tears at the final whistle, it's iconic.
The author draws a parallel between this moment and his own coming of age.
He was turning 18, Maradona nearing the end of his prime.
It was like a loss of innocence for both of them.
and maybe for the sport itself.
It makes you think about how our personal journeys intertwine with those of our heroes.
How the narratives of sport can reflect bigger shifts in society.
It's a poignant observation.
What stands out to you from all of this?
Well, as I was reading, I was really struck by how much Maradona's off-field persona seemed to overshadow his on-field achievements.
It's true.
He was such a complex character.
A walking contradiction. Really?
Capable of incredible brilliance.
But also shocking recklessness.
And I think that's what made him so fascinating.
It's that duality that keeps us talking about him, even today.
I keep going back to that handball against Russia.
The one that was even more blatant than the hand of God.
Yeah, what made that one so different, so calculated?
Well, the hand of God felt like a spur-of-the-moment decision.
In the heat of the moment, yeah.
But this one against Russia, it almost seemed premeditated.
Like he'd already decided he'd do whatever it took to win.
Even if it meant breaking the rules in plain sight.
Which is interesting because the author, who was such a devoted fan,
Right.
he talks about how that incident really forced him to confront Maradona's flaws.
To see that even the greatest players are capable of making bad choices.
And it made him question his own admiration for Maradona.
Which is something I think a lot of sports fans can relate to.
That moment when you realize your heroes aren't perfect?
It can be disillusioning.
Even heartbreaking.
But it also forces you to grow. To develop a more nuanced perspective.
Do you think this is unique to football?
This whole hero worship and then disappointment.
Yeah. Or is it something we see across all sports?
I think it's a universal phenomenon.
We see it in every field where there's intense competition and public scrutiny.
We build these athletes up, put them on pedestals.
And then we're shocked when they show their flaws.
That's a vicious cycle.
And Maradona, he just embodied that cycle more than most.
Absolutely. He was both blessed and cursed by his talent and personality.
His genius on the field was undeniable.
But his demons off the field were just as powerful.
And eventually they caught up with him.
It's a cautionary tale, really.
About the dangers of putting athletes on a pedestal.
About the importance of remembering that they're human, just like us.
But let's be honest, there's a part of us that's drawn to that kind of drama.
To those larger-than-life characters who live on the edge.
It's why we can't look away, even when they make mistakes.
There's something about the rebel, the rule breaker.
The one who defies expectations.
And Maradona was the ultimate embodiment of that.
He was the anti-hero we all secretly root for.
And that's reflected in his relationship with Naples.
They embraced him, flaws and all.
Because he represented their own struggles, their own defiance.
He gave them hope, a sense of pride.
He wasn't just a footballer to them, he was a symbol.
But I keep coming back to this question of separating the artist from the art.
Is it even possible with someone like Maradona?
His on-field brilliance and off-field antics, they're so intertwined.
They're inseparable parts of his legend.
It's a tough one.
On one hand, we can appreciate his talent, the joy he brought to millions.
But on the other hand, we can't ignore his flaws, the harm he caused.
And I think that's what makes him so enduringly fascinating.
He forces us to confront our own complexities, our own definitions of heroism, our own capacity for forgiveness.
He challenges us to think critically about the myths we create around our heroes.
To remember that they're human, capable of both great and terrible things. You know, it's interesting, though. I was thinking,
What if
Maradona hadn't been such a rebel? Would he have achieved the same level of success?
That's an intriguing question.
Maybe his rebellious streak, his willingness to push boundaries, was part of what made him so extraordinary.
It's like that saying, well-behaved women seldom make history.
Maybe it applies to footballers, too.
Maybe.
But it raises questions about the price of greatness.
How much are we willing to tolerate in pursuit of victory?
Where is the line between celebrating talent and condoning bad behavior?
Those are questions that go beyond Maradona.
We grapple with them as a society, especially in the world of sports and celebrity culture.
How do we reconcile the brilliance of the artist with the failings of the person?
Those are questions that linger long after the final whistle has blown.
And as we head into the final part of our deep dive into Maradona's 1990 World Cup,
Okay.
I want you to think about this. What is his legacy?
And what does it tell us about ourselves? It's funny, isn't it?
What's that?
How we can admire these sports figures,
Right.
but at the same time, criticize them.
Yeah, it's like we want them to be perfect.
But they're imperfections.
That's what makes them human.
And makes them relatable.
Exactly.
It's that paradox
Yeah.
that makes Maradona's legacy so interesting.
We're focusing on the 1990 World Cup,
Right.
but it's impossible to separate it from his whole life story.
It all gets tangled up together.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to see Italian 90 as like a downfall.
A fading star.
That image of him crying after the final.
Yeah, it sticks with you.
But I think there's more to it than that.
Oh, definitely.
His physical abilities, maybe they were declining.
And the team wasn't as strong as 86.
But to lead that team to the final,
It's a testament to his leadership.
his tactical understanding of the game,
For sure.
it wasn't about those flashy goals anymore.
Right.
The author even pointed that out.
It was more about strategy.
Setting up his teammates.
Exactly.
So we're seeing a more mature Maradona,
I think so.
a more strategic side.
It adds another layer to his genius.
We focus on the goals, the controversies,
But there was a brilliant mind behind it all.
and that gets overlooked sometimes,
It does.
which makes that final against West Germany
Oh, yeah.
even more heartbreaking.
Such a negative game.
Stifling creativity, all about tactics.
Neutralizing individual skill.
For someone like Maradona, who thrived on improvisation,
It's been frustrating.
the author described it as a loss of innocence.
For himself as a fan.
And for the sport itself.
That realization that even the beautiful game
Can be ugly,
cynical.
right? Disappointing.
Have you experienced that as a sports fan?
I think we all have at some point.
Those moments where the illusion is shattered.
And you see the darker side of competition
It's tough to reconcile that.
with the passion we have for the game.
But maybe that's the point.
What do you mean?
It's not about clinging to an idealized version.
Of the sport or the players.
Right.
It's about understanding that everything has its complexities.
Even something as beautiful as football.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Maradona's 1990 World Cup, where does this leave his legacy?
For me, it solidifies that he was more than just a footballer.
Oh,
He was a cultural icon,
yeah.
a symbol of hope, a rebel.
He challenged the status quo.
And yes, he was flawed.
But those flaws made him compelling.
They did.
He made us question our own ideas about heroism.
About success, about the price of greatness.
And his story shows us that even in defeat,
There can be beauty,
growth,
lessons learned.
it's a powerful legacy.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a good one.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on Maradona's 1990 World Cup.
Share your perspectives.
Keep exploring.
And until next time.
Keep diving deep.